Bhakti Yoga is devotional love toward the Supreme, devotional love for the Supreme. Generally, we start out Bhakti just calling out the name of the Supreme. It doesn't matter which name you call for us, as long as that name signifies that which is eternal, omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. And it lives within intelligence, the supreme intelligence of all living beings. But Bhakti is we say the practice of Bhakti consists of prayer, study, sacrifice, service, right association, and meditation. And our Supreme Being is at the center for all we do, all we offer, all we give away, as well as all austerities that we perform. Now, we say that we have to work out our own salvation with diligence. We just can't keep doing the same thing the same way and expect different results. If we don't try and save ourselves, as far as we know historically and experimentally, mentally, no one is coming to save us except ourselves. So Bhakti Yoga is a way of always associating with your Supreme Being. And we say at the very foundation of our being is this universal love. We call it praying. Praying, we are love. Truth, righteousness, love, and peace makes up our very being. So how to reawaken to this love, Bhakti, is one of the methodologies for awakening to this divine love, which is also called in Sanskrit praying. So we say we call out the holy name, chant it all the time, call out the holy name all the time. And all we do, all that we offer, all that we give away, as well as all austerities that we perform, we do it as an offering, surrender, submission, or service to the Supreme. So why do we do that? Because it helps us to associate with the Supreme. And we say our Supreme Being is the most pure, the very most pure. So by associating with our Supreme Being, we are purified. We're purified of lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. We say from that lust springs what? Illusion, madness, and envy. So to come back to our original being, our love, the love that is our nature, we do it by way of association with our Supreme Being. So by surrendering, by offering, by serving, our Supreme Being, and all we do, all we say, all we think, feel, will, say, and do, we associate with our Supreme Being. And this allows us to think about our Supreme Being all the time. And by that process, by the process of association, we're purified of lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. And we come back to that praying, that love, that universal love, that divine love that is our nature. So we say, yes, all that we do, all that we offer, all that we give away, all austerities that we perform, we do it as service, surrender, offering to our Supreme Being. And so this helps us to return to our Supreme Being. So how do we help ourselves? What's the best help that we can do for ourselves? To return to our Supreme Being. What's the highest goal of our life? To reawaken to our forgotten relationship with our Supreme Being. So whatever we are doing, we're saying, well, can we use this? Can what I'm doing help me to think about my Supreme Being? If it'll help us think about our Supreme Being, then it's edifying, then it should be done. If it doesn't help us or we're awakened to our Supreme Being, then we should leave it alone. Don't deal with it because it's not helping us. It's the greatest benefit we can have is reawakening to our relationship with our Supreme Being. Because the more we do this, of course, the more our intelligence is enlightened. The more we associate with our Supreme Being, the more our intelligence is enlightened. The more our intelligence is enlightened, our knowingness is enlightened, the more we can better navigate through the intricacies of the material atmosphere, which can be a ball of confusion, nothing but confusion. So we have to have a guide, a way out, a way to get through the morass of the material world. Otherwise, it's just a place of suffering where repeated birth and death takes place. That's all basically that material atmosphere is. A place of suffering where repeated birth and death takes place. From the highest to the lowest, from the castles to the trailer court, and anything in between. It's just a place of suffering. Some kind of suffering. It could be mental suffering, intellectual suffering, physical suffering, suffering caused by other living beings, or suffering by various turbulences in the weather, all kinds of sufferings. But when we analyze it and look at it very closely, we'll see that it's just a veil of suffering. So we have to come out of that temporary material world, because it is temporary. We have to come up out of that. We have to be born again. So what is this process of coming up out of that? What is this process of being born again? We say over in the material world, we're living as a material body. We think that we are the material body. That's our whole concept of life, based on the materialistic concept of life. That's the very foundation of our value system. So we're saying we have to come up out of that value system, come up out of that material world and cut it loose. Come over here on this side to the spiritual side. So with your most pure supreme being. See, we say that bhakti is the process of what? Loving service. Loving service to your supreme being. Bhakti. Loving service to your supreme being. And so by remembering our supreme being in everything we do, and all that we do it in remembrance of our supreme being. And by doing this, you're associated with your supreme being. Even if we just taking a name, chanting, that's mantra. Mantra yoga is a part of bhakti yoga. You're associated with your supreme through the very name. So by that association, that's assimilation. It's a gradual process, but it works. Association brings about assimilation. So by always remembering our supreme being, and the way we do that, we said all that we do, all that we offer, all that we give away, all austerities that we perform, all that we think, feel, will, say, and do, we do it as an offering to our supreme being. And this way we're in constant remembrance of our supreme being. And this constant remembrance is association with our supreme being. And by association with our supreme being, all that pollution in our consciousness, that lust which causes the rise of anger and greed. See? And from that anger comes what? Madness. From that greed comes what? Envy. From that lust also comes illusion. All of those are pollutants of the consciousness. They're also intoxicants. It makes us drunk. We can't see properly. It does, calcifies your third eye. So the calcification of the third eye or your pineal gland is not just caused by what we eat and drink, it's what we feel and think. Thinking and feeling. Right? So what we think about can either further pollute your consciousness and your pineal gland, or it can purify. So we say always think of the essence of this whole deal. Is always remember and never forget your supreme being. Know that your supreme being is omnipresent. Your supreme being lives within your own consciousness. Your supreme being, our supreme being, let's say it like this, our supreme being pervades and transcends our consciousness, our awareness, our very intelligence, our very own intelligence. It's omniscient. It's one of the qualifications for our supreme being. Omnipotence, omniscience, and omnipresence. So anyone can say, well, yeah, I'm supreme being, but do you have those qualifications? Are you omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent? Do you have all knowledge, all fame, all beauty, all wealth, all renunciation simultaneously? See? So if we don't have those qualifications, at this point, we might have the potential, and one would argue that we do have that potential because our supreme being is our supreme being. But because we're not manifesting it now, I'm a servant of our supreme being. A servant of our supreme being. And that's where we come, as being servants of our supreme being. And that's omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. So if one is not manifesting omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, then one is simply just talking, because there's no substance to back it up with. It's like if one is speaking, one should have some quote-unquote bibliography of what they're talking. They should bring forth some authorities, some established authorities to back up what you're talking about. Other than that, you're just talking. Talk is cheap. You see? When you're saying certain things, we should have some authorities, some established authorities behind us. We stand with authority. We speak with authority. And we could bring forth those authorities. So here they are. Now you go and check them out for yourself. So until we're really established, we should bring forth some bibliography, some very reliable, very established authorities to say amen or om to what we're talking about. Bhakti Yoga is about love, about a loving relationship to reawakening our love for our Supreme Being. And as this happens, we reawaken our love for ourselves as well as all sentient beings. Like the sun. The sun appears to rise, right? But as this divine love, or we call it prem, as we awaken to prem, we find that we have a loving, unconditional love for all living beings, not just human beings. But that is real love. But bhakti is reported to be the easiest yoga. It's awakening your real love for your Supreme Being and all sentient beings. Watering the root of the tree. When we water the root of the tree, the whole tree is nourished. So bhakti means that all that we do, all that we offer, all that we give away, all austerities that we perform, we do it as an offering or service to our Supreme Being. So that we're servants of our Supreme Being. But through that service, we're awakening remembrance of who our Supreme Being is and who we are. And gradually we start experiencing fulfillment and peace, real, tranquil, vibratory, ecstatic, loving peace. That is our natural condition. So it's natural. It's natural to love our Supreme Being. It's natural to love ourselves. So bhakti is the process, the yogic process, because yoga means union with our Supreme Being. Bhakti, or devotional, loving service to our Supreme Being, is one of the methods that we use for awakening to our forgotten relationship with our Supreme Being. So this is Bhakti. B-H-A-K-T-I. Bhakti Yoga. And this is the yoga that's recommended by most authorities on it. Arjuna himself was a Bhakti. Arjuna was a devotee of Krishna. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm revealing this ancient science to you because you're not only my devotee, you're my very best friend. So that's the Bhakti. So that's the one that's recommended in the Bhagavad Gita by Sri Krishna to Arjuna. And it says the essence of the thing, it says, always think of me. In Sanskrit it goes, Mamana Bhava Mud Bhakto, Mug Jagni Mam Namaskaru, Mam Evashasji Yuktavam Atmanam Madparayana. The essence of the verse is always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homages unto me. And by so doing, you will gradually reawaken to me or come back to me. You don't have to go anywhere else, you just have to come back to yourself. So bhakti is one of the yogas, one of the easiest yogas. that it is utilized for reawakening your lost, your forgotten relationship with your own Supreme Being.